I discovered that my family's wealth, which I'd always admired and trusted, was built on a lie. And once I uncovered the truth, everything I knew about them and my future felt completely different. I grew up in what most people would call a dream. Big house, luxury cars in the driveway, a closet full of clothes I didn't even like half the time, and vacations that felt like they were pulled straight from a travel magazine. My parents, at least in public, were picture perfect, polished, charming, and endlessly generous to friends, neighbors, and even strangers. Everyone admired them. Everyone, that is, except me, until I realized I might not really know them at all. I never questioned the wealth. Honestly, I didn't have to. I was raised to assume it was a combination of hard work, intelligence, and a little luck. My dad ran a business empire that spanned multiple states. My mom had social influence that opened doors for the family at every turn. Growing up, I absorbed all of it like a sponge, thinking someday I'd step into their world seamlessly. But life has this funny way of showing cracks in even the most polished facades. It started with something small, a chance stumble across a filing cabinet in my father's office that I wasn't supposed to see. I was 14, nosy and fascinated by the faint smell of old paper and ink. I told myself I was just curious about how he kept his work organized. But the papers I found didn't smell like routine business. They smelled like secrets. Contracts with unnamed companies, financial statements that didn't add up, references to transactions that seemed more like favors than real profits. At first, I didn't understand. I figured it was probably just complex corporate stuff, the kind kids weren't meant to grasp. I shoved the papers back into the drawer, heart racing, and told myself I'd forget them. But of course, I didn't. High school only made the unease worse. I started noticing the little inconsistencies. A cousin's luxury car paid for by the family when no one mentioned her own earnings, strange offhand remarks from my parents about deals that couldn't be talked about, and neighbors who whispered when they thought I wasn't listening. Everything I'd admired, the wealth, the comfort, the reputation, suddenly felt like it could be a veneer. The first real alarm came during a family dinner, the kind where my father liked to impress friends with stories of investments and smart financial decisions. I remember the night clearly. He was talking about a merger that had set the company apart in the last decade, when I noticed a name in the documents I'd glimpsed months before. One of the companies was shady at best, rumored to be involved in legal trouble, yet he spoke about it as if it were gold. I felt a pit open in my stomach, a mixture of curiosity and dread. It wasn't just a financial issue anymore. It was personal. My identity had been intertwined with this family, this world I thought I understood. But if the foundation itself was a lie, what did that make me? Who was I, really, in this picture-perfect life? I tried to ignore it. I buried myself in school, friends, and the shallow distractions that teens use to avoid the hard truths in front of them. But secrets have a way of clawing their way to the surface, and mine were about to. Because the first real clue wasn't in paperwork, whispers, or rumors. It was in my mother's expression. I'd been cleaning out her old study, a room I rarely entered, when I found a photo tucked behind a row of antique books. Not a family photo, the kind she'd proudly display, but one from a construction site, yellowed and frayed at the edges. My father was in it, younger, wearing a hard hat and shaking hands with a man I didn't recognize. There was a ledger tucked under his arm, almost hidden. Something about the way my father smiled in the photo, proud but almost forced, made my skin crawl. And then I saw it. The corner of the ledger had a name scrawled in ink, a name that had no place in the history I'd been taught. It was a name connected to something dark, something that didn't belong in a story about legitimate business. I didn't want to believe it. I shoved the photo back, telling myself I was imagining things.